Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video. In this video we're going to be taking a first look at Minerva, who is a new promo character coming to Road to Survival. You may recognize her from the Telltale game series because she was in Season 4 of Telltale Games The Walking Dead, and she was one of my favorite characters. I really liked her introduction in Season 4. Her story was great, you know, optimism, darkness, you know, a lot of things were there. You weren't sure if they actually existed anymore because they were just talked about in the first couple of episodes. But the whole story arc of this character was great. I really liked this character. I did hope that everything would be okay, but yeah, we know what happened, unfortunately. Now, in terms of her visuals in Road to Survival, it is 100% accurate to Telltale. So the last scene that Minerva was in, this is pretty much what she looked like. She had an axe, she had a pistol, and you could maybe argue that she could have been just a strong character with an axe, but I kind of like this. It does give a different look, and this was pretty iconic of this character from Telltale in terms of just the visual with the axe over the shoulder, that sort of thing. So I think they've done her justice in terms of her visuals here. We'll look at her stats. She's got 2,950 attack, 5,226 defense, and 3,855 HP. She is an alert character, and her role is tank. Now, you kind of would see her being a tank with those sort of defensive stats. She's got over 9,000 stats in the two defensive stats added together, which is huge. Now, she doesn't have much attack, but she doesn't really need it because she does not have a percentage damage rush, and we talked about this in the past. Things like bleed and stuff, you don't need attack stat. She has got a very fast rush, however. It's called Dreadful Shots. 66 AP cost is always risky to have on a character. It can make them very, very powerful, overpowered in fact a lot of the time, with up to 2 teammates getting 175% infection, 3,000 trauma, and 25% heal reduction for 3 turns. All teammates get 75% defense for 3 turns. So I'm going to break down the first half of this into 3 parts, where it's up to 2 enemies get 175% infection for 3 turns. There's not much you can do against infection right now. You're meant to out heal it, that's how it works. If someone doesn't out heal infection, they will instantly die. And they have 3 turns to do that. So if someone has 10,000 HP, they have to heal 17,500 and then the infection just disappears, or it will just instantly kill you. If you do, 1,749, that 1 HP that you would have needed to heal is the difference between life and death. And I don't particularly like the way that works in infection, especially as right now there's no healers. There is no S-class healers pretty much. Sheila was the only one released and she was terrible. So we definitely need like a good, powerful healer to be released in the S-class era. The biggest issue is, I think within promos, a lot of people don't want to pull for healers, and I can kind of understand that. So there needs to be a free-to-play healer released pretty much, and a lot of people will be annoyed at that because they don't want to, have a free-to-play character that's a healer. But we do not have healers at the moment in the S-class era. We've only just started getting slight controllers, with Princess and Dayu. A lot of the characters were very samey in terms of just lots of heavy damage and things like crosshairs, these new effects basically. So it is nice to see something different come in with infection. Now, infection's like the premium effect right now, where there's no resistances to it. It's just basically a win button. It will take a little bit of time because obviously, most rushes, when you rush, you're going to do that instant impact damage. Like if you did a pre-rush, it will be damage that turn. Whereas this is, you're doing the rush and then 3 turns later, the characters are dying. But it's a guaranteed kill. It doesn't matter about their stats. It doesn't matter about their HP, defense, whatever. You can control them in that time and they're dead. Now, the added bonus with Minerva is has got trauma damage on here as well. And what happens with trauma is one of the few ways you can actively remove infection is just to cleanse it with a full cleanse. Now, trauma means that every single effect that is cleansed, they will take trauma damage, and it'll be 3,000 per effect. So someone's got, let's say, they're stunned, they've got infection here, and then they'll have the heal reduction as well. So if they get full cleansed, and they'll actually have trauma, I think that counts too, they'll take 12,000 damage. Trauma is very strong in massive amounts of stats, and combined with infection, that's a really good combo. The heal reduction of 25% isn't that big a deal, but it's going to make it even harder, if it wasn't hard enough already, to remove that infection. And I don't know, I just don't think infection's working properly right now. Like, the balance in infection is just not there. It's almost impossible to out heal it, to be honest. It's just there just isn't enough healers, let's be honest. All teammates get 75% defense for 3 turns. This pretty much makes completely irrelevant at this point, because the best thing that Kapoor was bringing to the table was 80% defense buff to all his teammates, whereas it's that she's bringing that, and she's just got a better rush. She's a much better rush character than Kapoor is. Kapoor does 1500 damage to a line of enemies. This character guaranteed kills 2 enemies in the first 5 turns, guaranteed. And last character alive, it's going to be very hard to deal with this character if she's the last one alive. Now we'll look at her active skill, and it's heal and bonus HP. I'm generally not a big fan of heals and bonus HPs on actives, but we'll see. Initial cooldown of 3. This character gets 50% bonus HP and regains up to 50% of their max HP for 2 turns. Okay, so the 50% HP for 2 turns is really good. The bonus HP is awesome. Obviously, if they've got, max HP, they're still going to do this. That's the only downside. This active is always going to go off, and that can disrupt your sort of rhythm on that sort of character. Generally speaking, because it's initial cooldown of 3, rush is on defense teams and attack teams. Well, on attack teams you control the character, so you can say when you want to do it, but on defense teams, rush is always prioritized over active skills, so they'll get the active skill and the rush on the same turn unless they've been controlled in any way, like AP drained or something, and then they'll rush instead of doing the active, which is actually better. You generally want someone to rush over doing the active skill normally. However, in some circumstances, I have forced someone to rush because I don't want them to do like an active revive, that sort of thing. So there's ups and downs here, but definitely on Minerva, you'd want her to do her rush over her active. So it being an initial cooldown of 3 is good. The number of uses 5 is massive, so she's going to be consistently doing this during the fight, which is going to disrupt your AP gains and stuff. So that's a big downside with that. So I'm not really sold on that active skill. I don't think it's great, if I'm honest. So move across to the specialist skill, and it is Outlast, and this means when this character is defeated, they get an extra turn. However, last year there was changes to certain skills, certain specialist skills, and now someone with Outlast, I think most of you will probably realize this anyway, because if you've seen Mia, you get the idea. Characters with Outlast get an extra turn, but they also get 100% AP on that turn. Now, if they are impaired, they can't rush. If they're taunted, they can't do anything. They just do a basic attack. If they're confused, they won't be able to rush. But as long as they would be able to rush, no matter what their AP gain was when they died, let's say it was 0 AP because they got AP drained or something like that, they'd have 100% AP. They'd be guaranteed to rush without any control, which is dangerous. The only thing with Minerva is that if she's the last character alive, for instance, it doesn't mean anything because she's not going to do any damage with that. That takes 3 turns to go off properly, so it won't be that great. But if she was focused early on in the fight, if you've got a Priya, for instance, and like you killed someone else with her rush, a red character, then it went on to Minerva to focus her and you did finish her off, she'd get her rush the next turn, guaranteed, unless she was controlled. And I think you can control a character that has already been killed with Outlast, because you can have like the RNG of the extra, if you have Confused 2, it's the person you select the +1. The +1 can sometimes be the Outlast character. I've seen that in the past. I'm not sure if that's been fixed, but that may have been a bug, but it seemed to work sometimes. Now, she has also got a weapon, and her weapon is not that great, if I'm honest. It's Minerva's Blunting Beretta. It has got 30% HP, a medium bonus to AP when taking damage, and attack down when being attacked, a better chance to cause minus 30% attack for the attacker's next 3 turns, which is not a very good slot 3 special, if I'm honest. You, generally speaking, are going to want to go for a stun gun on this character, obviously. And I think it would have been better off just actually having a stun gun on this character. And then if someone wants to, they can work hard to get a focus stun. Like, that's the upgrade. That's the premium one right now. So having this on there as an instant, it's going to be replaced. It's not a very good weapon to start off. The 30% HP is the only good part. The downside is, if you want percentage on your weapons, you should generally, especially on tanks, you should generally get the percentage on the weapon on the stat you've got that's higher, because you're going to get a bigger boost. And then go for flat rate increases with combat mods, just because that's going to be a flat rate regardless, and do that for the smaller amounts. So like, you could have done HP on your combat mods, 30% defense. She would have had insane amounts of defense with that. And I mean, you could still do that if you really wanted, but you would lose an upgrade, so you'd lose a 5% increase. You'd have to work out if it was worth it or not. But generally speaking, it's better to have percentage increases on the stat that is higher. So what do I think about Minerva? I think she is actually pretty decent. She's going to be annoying on peak teams. She could potentially be used on like Raulito teams, because of the trauma is good because it would work with bleeds, and you've got characters like Mercer who's got cleanse, and that trauma would work in that situation, which would actually be pretty useful. Now, when it comes to her aesthetics, the way she looks, I think she's probably one of the most accurate Telltale characters we've ever had in terms of visuals versus the character in the game. I'm happy that they brought in a character like this. She was kind of like, I think she was pretty much only in one episode, so she wasn't really in that many, and I thought she was a great character. I'm happy that she's in the game. We are going to have some more Telltale characters coming in the future, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to be like. But do tell me what you think about Minerva. She is, like I said, a Telltale limited edition S-Class character. She is going to be on the promo wheel. Will I pull for her? She's a Telltale character, so maybe. We'll see. Might do a 10. That is the end of my video, though, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.